Umbra, should we do the tech? Yeah? Okay. Let's do it. You're watching The Tech, the 14th best show on the internet. And, yeah, I'll show you guys what I've been doing lately. Wendell, what have you been up to lately? Anything interesting and new?
I've been going insane, as crazy as Gary Busey.
Even with the snaggle teeth and everything? The internet will never know. Well, those few people who find that one video will. But anyway, here's what I've been up to. I've been building these. So we've got a little extra room here now that Jimmy's gone. And I was decided I'm going to turn that room into the studio because every time we shoot, I have to rearrange everything in here, and it's like a bit crazy. It takes forever, and I have to replug in all the equipment and everything and move monitors around. So I'm just going to build a dedicated area just to do these videos. I got new microphones and everything, and we're going to do them in there, and they're going to be awesome. And I started building shelves because, hey, Charlie, the guy we're playing Castles and Crusades with, and you guys should watch that on the weekends. We stream that to Hitbox, so watch Castles and Crusades. But anyway, we've been building these shelves. So there's the stain. We've decided to do a dark stain on them because I like my shelves like I like my coffee. Dark and full of whiskey.
A man can never have too many shelves or desks.
Everything should be a shelf. The dog is now going to be a shelf. Anyway, let's move on here. Eric Schmidt, I wanted to take a look at this video here. And it's just entitled The Interconnected Improving World. It's 14 minutes long. Let's go ahead and watch all of this in real time here on The Tech. Because that's what you guys want, right? Right? No, we'll just talk about it. So Eric Schmidt basically just talks about his vision of the world, and a few things I want to highlight. Of course, everything's going to be interconnected. That's kind of a big theme with him. He doesn't really talk much about privacy, other than it doesn't seem like he's too worried about it. And the other thing that's pretty interesting, he thinks that the aging problem will be something that they're going to solve in the future, and also he said soon he thinks there's going to be flying cars because we're going to run out of roadways. And there are some technologies and that sort of thing that are trying to cope with the fact that, it's too many cars, too many people, got this infrastructure on the ground, and we have to constantly maintain it, especially in the north where there's all this, ice and stuff, always ripping potholes in the road. And in fact, in some places in the north, they can't wait until it's winter, so all the potholes are covered. But he's like, we're going to have flying cars soon. We've got some great new technology in hovering devices, lithium batteries, and that sort of thing. So, and he thinks that all this is going to happen he said, in our lifetime. So I'm pretty sure at this point he's getting like some, I don't know, fountain of youth injections or something that Ray Kurzweil is working on. But I don't know. I thought the video was pretty interesting, and if you guys want a little bit of insight into what one of the most powerful men in the world thinks the future is going to hold, well, go ahead and check it out. Let's see what Assange has to say about that, because Julian Assange, we haven't talked about him a lot, but he's recently written a book, and he's mainly talking about, in the book, it's called When Google Met WikiLeaks, and he actually sat down with Eric Schmidt and had some talks with him, shared some ideas and that sort of thing. I think Jared Cohen was also there. Maybe I'm wrong, but he goes through and highlights a few things about his experience, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. And the title of this post here, on Espresso, is Google should be of concern to people all over the world. And we really kind of say a lot of nice things about Google, but he has some points in here that I think we should bring up right now, and everyone should talk about them, because we're trusting Google with all of our data, and Google's motto is don't be evil. And the problem with that motto is that Google is collecting all of your data. They're collecting almost as much data as like the NSA and stuff. And if you're on the internet, you're probably using a Google service. I mean, unless you're using an Apple service. But you're still, even if you're on an Apple device, you're probably still somehow using a Google service. And they have all this data, and so far they've been working, just fine with all of the authorities. They've just been they kind of work just fine with the governments, and they say don't be evil. And the problem with that idea is they do not see the Western governments as being evil. So they pretty much was like, oh, there's nothing to worry about. The governments are benevolent, so we're going to work with them, and we have all this information. So while they may not be trying to be evil, their view of the governments may be a bit, troubling. I don't know. Do you think there's anything to worry about there, Wendell?
I think that it's really an interesting perspective. I mean, being Americans, blah blah blah, we are a bit snowblind to Google, and it's always interesting to get a different perspective. A lot of our members that are in Europe are always very paranoid about Google, and rightly so. Our perspective on Google is that, at least mine, is that they were started by a bunch of college kids, a bunch of smart college kids, and it's like, yeah, this is amazing, but they've really grown from that, and they are sort of this unwieldy, super intelligent power that may or may not be amoral, we don't know. But with the data aggregation, even if they have the best of intentions, it could be a real danger, because you don't have any way to know if your data's been misappropriated. There's just no way for you to know. And so how can you redress grievances?
Yeah, I'll read the exact statement here from the Assange book. He said that Schmidt and Cohen believe that privacy is no longer needed in the West at all because Western governments are inherently good and responsive and use the information they collect in order to better manage the people in those states. So they're just saying that, like, hey, they collect all this information, but they're just using it to better manage the people, and then maybe that's what Google does. So Google's just, quote unquote, hoovering up all of this data. And yeah, I kind of agree about the whole Google thing. It also, when here in the USA, it's easy to see Google in a very positive light, mainly because compared to everything else, it's like, oh my God, they're angels. There's not even like there's like no middle ground. It's like Google is trying to they're don't be evil and all that stuff, and they seem to be doing things more that are in our interests and that sort of thing, and they seem to also care about customers and people that use their products. Even though it's all toward their bottom line, they seem to care about them. Whereas Comcast, if Comcast knew that you were worth $500 dead, but $498 alive, they would shoot you in the face, like right now. Not even any question. It's like, well, we can make an extra $2 if that guy's dead. Arrange it. So that's kind of interesting. Anyway, in more Assange news, let's go all out. Assange, Snowden, and Greenwald are joining forces with Kim.com. And this is so funny.
This is about the New Zealand election.
Yeah, this is hilarious because there's some elections coming up in New Zealand, and Kim.com is not allowed to run for prime minister or whatever they have over there. I don't know whether Major Dude or MD, right? Major Dude. I don't know what they've got. I think it's prime minister, but he's not allowed to run for president, minister, prime of the majorness because he's from Germany. He's not from New Zealand, but he is allowed to finance elections. And he's like, what if all these other companies are going to throw money at candidates? Well, I'm going to start my own political party, the Internet Party, and we're going to fight for freedom in the Internet age as the Internet generation sees fit. And we are going to decide where the money goes. And so he has donated more money than anyone in history. And it looks like some of his candidates are going to win. And Assange, Greenwald, and Snowden are all joining forces with him. So if that's going on in New Zealand, I'm not sure how big of a deal New Zealand is for the rest of the world. But I mean, imagine if we got somebody in charge in New Zealand who actually cares about the internet and who actually understands sharing culture in the digital age. What would that do for the rest of the world? I don't know. Would it make us angry at New Zealand?
The really amazing thing that's happening in New Zealand with all this too is that Kim.com is saying, no, look, we're under illegal surveillance, blah, blah, blah. And the guy that's in charge of New Zealand says that, no, you guys aren't under mass surveillance at all. And so they had this, they had this get together as a result with all of these people, and it became a whole YouTube event. And I would encourage you to go watch it because it is amazing. It's kind of a train wreck. It's a little bit of a train wreck. At one point, Snowden is sort of poking at Julian Assange, which is, it's like, at the first it's a sign of trouble, I'll just release every classified thing that there is with no redaction. And it's like, wah, wah.
Yeah, here's the whole video. I've got it on the screen right now, but I'm going to keep the audio down. But yeah, the interesting, you guys can watch this too.
The really interesting thing that happened here was totally missed, I think, by New Zealand media. And that is, so Snowden does this leak. And the leak is like, we've got the Five Eyes program where the NSA is spying. And so the Five Eyes, one of those eyes is New Zealand. and the prime minister, or the political leader down there. I don't have I accidentally closed the article, so I have to do this from memory. Sorry, but the guy that had the guy in charge of the government down there said, no, we don't have a mass surveillance program, and I would resign if we did. And so they're like, all right, what about Five Eyes? What about these people talking? And I had some emails from the MPAA saying, very good, they're going to play ball with us. Yes, this is very excellent. And other things that's not exactly related to mass spying, but sort of shows that there may be some shenanigans going on with respect to corporations steering law enforcement, which is always a dangerous situation. And he said, no, here, I'm going to show you. Here's some declassified reports on a mass surveillance program. And that program that he was declassified, the code name for it was not the same code name as the Five Eyes program. And he was not directly commenting about the Five Eyes program. He was commenting about another program. And media hasn't really asked anything about that. So it's like, do we really have to ask, does New Zealand have more than one mass surveillance program? And we also have Snowden who's saying, yeah, no, if you want to search New Zealand, it was just a checkbox on a form at the NSA. So we had the data. Did you know we had the data? Because we had the data.
So that's it. I mean, that's like easier than getting a driver's license. I mean, really. They've streamlined their systems, and then they've layered so much bureaucracy on top of us that we can barely get a driver's license down at the DMV. So, yeah. Probably not as bad as the UK. I've heard that the bureaucracy over there is just absurd. And you have to fill out a form now in order to get a form that will allow you to send in a letter that will send you another form so you can, I don't know, do your taxes or maybe mount a water hose on the outside of your building. That's what you have to go through. I'm pretty sure that's how it works, right? So, and you guys in the UK will let me know.
It was John Key. He's like, no, there's no mass surveillance here. Here's some declassified information about this, mass surveillance program. We looked at it and we said, nah, let's not do it. But that wasn't the same program that Snowden was talking about.
But didn't he say he halted the program because it made him quote unquote uncomfortable? But
yeah,
he did acknowledge it. He's like, well, but I halted it because it was making me uncomfortable.
But that wasn't the same one that Snowden was talking about. The one that Snowden was talking about was a different program, and so no one has really, of course, people in technical circles have picked up on that, but no one in the mass media has picked on that or even questioned it, which is very surprising.
Until now. And it looks like the other one must still be going on as well, because nobody came out and denied that one, really, right? I mean, it just, if they did, they did say, we're not spying on people, but maybe we are, but we're not, and we halted this program that's nothing like what he used to. Yeah, it's a mess. People are resigning. Things are going crazy. And the Internet Party is looking pretty good to anybody who's not wearing, I don't know, a business suit and trying to screw the common man. So I think it's pretty interesting.
The exact quote from Snowden was, the Prime Minister's claim to the public that there is no and there has never been any mass surveillance is false, the former NSA analyst wrote. The GCSB, whose operations he is responsible for, is directly involved in the untargeted bulk interception and algorithmic analysis of private communications sent via internet, satellite radio, and phone networks. Snowden went on to explain that at the NSA, I routinely came across communications of New Zealanders in my work with the mass surveillance tool we share with the GCSB called X-Keyscore, blah, blah, blah. There you have it. And he's not talking about that. He's not even directly addressing that. He's not directly refuting that. Classic insane politician.
If you guys want more, there's an entire video here that you can watch. It's 2 hours and 6 minutes. I haven't made it through the entire thing yet. I had it on yesterday while I was writing the outline, and I had to keep stopping the video and rewinding a little bit because I'm like, wait, what the hell did they just say? Oh, that's interesting. But yeah, we need to get involved with the Internet Party around here. I'm not saying I want to run for king of the earth or anything like that, but it's an interesting way to do it because I feel like a lot of nerds and a lot of the most intelligent people are too busy doing their thing. Like, hey, I'm going to be a scientist and I'm going to fix the world, or I'm going to be a programmer and I'm going to solve good problems. And then you get the politicians who are like, yeah, I'm going to go to Washington and get bribed. But if more people, if more good people decided to go into politics, maybe things would be a little different. I doubt the corporations would fund those good people, but hey, maybe we've got some Kim.coms around here who would throw money at them.
I'm not sure that any politician ever became a politician with the intent to improve society. That's got to be the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, that's probably true. One more thing I want to throw in here on, there's a book here called The New Digital Age, Reshaping the Future of People, Nations, and Business. It's by Eric Schmidt and Jared Cohen. And if, this just goes back to the whole Google thing, if you want more information about Google's view of the future, that's probably a good book to pick up. I'm going to grab it and start reading it, so if you guys do as well, we can get on Twitter and say, hey, did you read this part? What did you think of this? Oh my God, did you read this? Do you think so-and-so is going to sleep with so-and-so? No, he didn't. Stay tuned next Sunday. I don't know what just happened.
The Jersey Shore is leaking onto this channel. That's what happened.
Oh, and we've got our thumbnail.
It's oozing.
That's what it does. It does ooze. So the Pirate Bay founder, his father just died. So a moment of silence. All right, and Peter Sund, I believe it is, Sunday. I'm not sure how to say that. I don't speak Swedish.
Well,
yeah.
the backstory here is there's this guy. He's Swedish. Well, he's not really Swedish. He was in Sweden. He's probably Swedish.
Is he Swedish?
Anyway,
I think he's Swedish.
He's one of the system administrators from the Pirate Bay way back in the day. He was, because copyright violation wasn't really a serious thing in Sweden, and they were doing it so egregiously and driving so many people insane that eventually it went to court, and eventually he was found guilty, but he fled the country, and so he was on the lam for a while.
Driving people insane, namely the U.S. and the U.K. and Australia. Go ahead.
And they finally they found him on a farm. They raided the farm, and they immediately put him in Supermax security prison, or the Swedish equivalent of Supermax security prison, which is unusual because it's a nonviolent crime. And
yeah, let's break down the way this works. Now, okay, in America, you get pulled over, and your shoelaces are untied. They hit you in the head with a brick, and they kill you either right there, or they tase you in the throat, and then they take you to a place in Texas where they stare at you in a padded cell for the rest of your life. And then somebody comes and asks you questions. That's what happens in America if your shoes are untied.
The problem we've got in America is that we work so much, and everything is so on the verge of falling apart over here that everybody is stressed out of their mind. And that goes for law enforcement as well. So it's like, I'm sorry, my shoelaces are untied. Let me tie them. You get shot 5 times and tased. I mean, that's pretty much the normal MO over here. Because everybody's stressed out of their mind because everybody's working 90 hours a week.
Now, I'm not sure if things have changed much since back in the days of Catch Me If You Can with Frank Abagnale Jr. and all that. But I recently reread that book. And in that book, he's captured in Sweden. And I believe he's extradited to Sweden from Italy. And in Italy, they put him in a hole, basically, and he has to lay in his own fecal matter for a couple of years. And then he gets out of there and he goes to Sweden. They clean him up. They give him meals and everything. And he won't cooperate. He won't tell them what he's done. He's been passing bad checks, and he's been, defrauding the banks and that sort of thing. And he just will not cooperate. And at one point, they're like, Frank, why will you not cooperate with us? What is wrong? We know everything you've done. You're caught red-handed. You're going to go to jail. And it'll be much better if you cooperate. Why won't you just tell us everything you've done? It would be so much better. And he's like, he starts to freak out. And he's like, I don't want to go to jail for the rest of my life. And the officer that was with him, she starts laughing until she cries. And he's like, what? Why are you laughing? And she can't breathe. She's laughing so hard. And she's like, the rest of your life? She's like, you've been passing bad checks. That's not a big deal. You're going to go to jail for maybe a year or so. Maybe you'll be out in 6 months on bad behavior. Worst case scenario, And that's the difference, Anyway, that was a story time right there.
Well, no, that's the reality of things in Sweden. The punishment fits the crime. Here in America, we've basically got the gulag at this point, where if you're in jail, you're basically slave labor. But in Sweden, it's a higher standard. But here we have a guy who's nonviolent, and he was only sentenced to a couple of years in prison. And this is just the backstory. We haven't even gotten into the story yet. This is just the backstory.
We're just having fun still.
Yeah, and so they put him in Supermax, and he's like, I'm not violent. Can I move? And he petitioned to move, and they wouldn't let him move. And just there've been all sorts of egregious, I would say almost human rights violations, because, he's basically just a computer nerd. But they're like, oh, we're gonna put you in Supermax and solitary and this, that, and the other, and it doesn't really fit. Well, anyway, his dad died, and he's got 50 days left in his sentencing, and so he needs to go to the funeral and to be with his family because his dad died. and they're say, well, if you go, we're going to make sure that you're handcuffed the whole time, and he's going to be a pallbearer, which means that he carries the coffin. They're like, well, you're going to have to carry the coffin in handcuffs, and it's just very unusual. It is atypical behavior in the Swedish justice system, which suggests to us that it's perhaps corrupted. I know there are people that live in Sweden in the audience. Perhaps you can comment on it, but it seems to be really sort of not good that these random U.S. companies can apparently set policy to the extent that, someone who's arrested for a nonviolent crime can be treated dramatically different from someone else who is arrested for a nonviolent crime. So it's odd.
Yeah. So we do want to hear from our Swedish audience out there. Comsonics is a company in Virginia, and they're developing a new type of radar gun, or radar-ish gun. It's not really a radar gun, I guess, because it's just a piece of technology that's going to allow law enforcement officials to see if you're texting while driving. And they're supposedly tuning it just so that it sees SMS technology. It's not supposed to pick up on, other types of signals. But I don't know. They apparently they're going to use this, and if you're texting while driving, they're going to stop you and hit you in the head with a brick and put you in a hole in Texas forever. I don't know how I feel about this. I'm really all for people getting hit in the head with a brick if they text while driving. I would rather be on the road at 2 a.m. on St. Patrick's Day than on the road with a bunch of people texting. I think it's like the most dangerous thing you can do while driving. So I'm okay with harsh punishment. I'm afraid that this is going to have some, room for margin. There's going to be a high margin of error. So I don't know.
There's going to be just a ridiculously absurd, to the point that we have to laugh about it to avoid having an aneurysm, amount of false positives with this. There's no way, because other passengers, the car itself could be doing SMSs. SMSs could be busy in your area. I really don't see how this could be very effective, unless the device can also just decrypt all of the communications. Because this SMS travels over a control channel, and so even the control channel messages, by and large, are encrypted these days. So I would be very surprised if this works, and if it does work, it points to a massive security hole in phones. And anybody that's got Apple and they're using iMessage, they're going to be immune to that, because iMessage doesn't travel over the SMS control channel. So this is just dumb. Why is this company doing this?
Well, we're talking about iMessage and everything. Let's talk about Apple's new privacy policy, and also the fact that apparently they're not even going to be able to turn over information to government officials now, thanks to the update of iOS 8. Because in iOS 8, they lock everything on your phone on behalf of the customer. They lock everything, and they tie it all to your password, and they do not even have access to it. Where most devices, they're able to bypass all that sort of thing if they need access to certain things. Apple says that the only person that's going to have access to any of that data is the person who owns the device. That's interesting. I'm not sure if they're doing this because I really think the reason they're doing this is because they didn't want all the overhead of having to constantly deal with all of the requests. All the ridiculous amounts of the requests were getting out of hand.
Basically,
so I think that's why they're doing this.
And the EFF has said Apple has 6 out of 6 stars for their commitment to standing with their customers and the government government who seeks access to their data. This is a part of the iOS 8 update from Apple that just came out a couple of days ago. It remains to be seen. I want to see DEF CON. I want to see the DEF CON presentation on this to see how accurate this is. But if they are doing, whole and complete device level encryption, I don't know. I mean, Apple is an 800-pound gorilla, but we've seen this play out in the courts before. This is almost the identical scenario to LavaBit, and so the feds can say, oh, we need to do a tap and trace on this, and by tap we mean dump the flash memory, and there doesn't really seem to be any mechanism for us to be able to argue about whether or not the law includes scope of dumping the flash memory remotely or whatever. And so in LavaBit's case, they were the Snowden's email provider. They said, well, it's all encrypted. We can't just turn this over. Everything runs through this encryption. It's just one mailbox that you want, but we would have to give you everything. So I think that in this scenario, it could play out the same with Apple. And so it's like, oh, you can't give us that. I was like, well, you're in non-compliance. You've got to give us that. The other thing that Apple did is they removed the warrant canary from this. A warrant canary is a very important term to understand. And so what, like the Tor, I think it's the Tor project and a few other projects on the internet say, they have an announcement on their website that says, we have not been served a national security letter that we can't talk about in connection with turning over data or doing whatever. And so it says that they have not been served. And so when they are served, they're gagged. They can't say they've been served an order, but they can remove the notice from their homepage that says they haven't been served a notice, and so you know. And there was one of those in the Apple privacy statement, but that is now gone. But that may not really be a big deal. We don't know.
Let's remind everyone what the government does when they don't get what they want. They don't just lay down on the ground and kick and scream. Let's take a look at this Yahoo case here. So Yahoo, they could have been fined about $852 quadrillion, probably more than that, I believe. They could have been fined this amount of money. So what happened is, the Justice Department came to Yahoo and they're like, hey, we want all this information and we want it right now. And Yahoo's like, you can't just do that. That's against the Constitution. That's illegal. You can't have it. And so the Justice Department's like, okay, well, you know what? You're going to appeal the case. We already won the case because we're the government and we say we won the case. You can appeal the case if you like, but until then, we're going to fine you $250,000 a day, and it's going to double. Oh, let's say it doubles, every couple of weeks or so? So
every week.
Every week. So $250,000 a day doubles every week. And so it becomes exponentially larger. And they said that they were going to start the fines exactly then. Meaning they're not going to wait for the appeal to go through. They're going to start it right now. So if Yahoo were to lose the appeal, then they would be responsible for, coughing up a sum of money that would instantly bankrupt the company, and they would go away. That would be the end of Yahoo right there because they refused to cooperate with the government exactly the way the government said that they had to cooperate. So, yeah, their lawyer said that it would have easily become enough money to stack $100 bills high enough that they would be able to reach the sun. Where's that number there? What was 20? Yeah, they said that after the end of 1 year, they would have owed $7.9 sextillion, which is equal to a stack of $100 bills, so high that it would go back and forth to the sun 28,769 times. Because that's totally reasonable.
What's really crazy is that this is not a public court. This was the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court.
And all
this was
classified.
not about, which is, it's a gag order. You can't talk about it. And this was about the bulk collection of data. And so, here we are. This was 2008. Here we are in 2014. And it's only just now that they're able to talk about this. But the fine doubling thing was what they were seeking as a minimum fine. That's effectively a corporate death penalty. I mean, in 1 month it would be $25 million, and in the second month it would be $400 million. There's no way that the court system moves fast enough that you could make any kind of progress in a month or two. There is no way to do it.
Well, they would have just drowned them in paperwork as well until they went out of business or coughed
exactly.
it up.
And this right here, foreign governments and foreign citizens looking at this, and it's like, do you do business with an American company? That's what Apple's worried about, because Apple wants to be really popular abroad, and it can be, and that's its growth market. And with this kind of shenanigans, nobody's going to buy an Apple product.
Well, Apple, I hope for your sake that you've got, how much was it? It was $7.9 sextillion. So I hope for your sake that you've got $7.9 sextillion. Just keep extorting those hipsters, man. Just keep extorting those hipsters.
The total value of the Earth is 195 quadrillion, which is, a paltry sum in comparison.
Oh, man. I think the government's found the way to pay off their debt in a matter of months.
Yeah. That's just so ridiculous.
Speaking of paying off debts, how would you like to steal people's PIN numbers? So there's this new device out, and here I'll show you the device here. It's the FLIR, and it hooks onto the back of your iPhone, and it shows heat signatures. It's similar to the things that, I guess you can get stuff like this at spy stores. Couldn't you already get this kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's just a standard issue thermal camera is all it is.
And I mean, having it on the iPhone now is going to make it ubiquitous, and that's what people are scared of. But there's an interesting little video here just showing how easy it is to take someone's PIN number. You basically just, I'll not play the video, or maybe I will and I'll just mute it.
So I'm making this.
Shut up. Show the thing. You basically just walk up after someone has used a PIN pad or whatever, and you just kind of scan your device across it, and it'll show you the heat signature of wherever their fingers were. So you can get their PIN number, and it's usually pretty accurate. Not that difficult to do.
It's a camera. So, if you're not familiar, FLIR is a thermal camera that shows minor temperature differences as color on a video, so you can see where something is slightly warmer than something else. If you ever watched Ghost Hunters and they're looking for the warm spot or the cold spot or whatever, that's the thermal camera. And FLIR is a brand of thermal camera.
So, I mean, I guess having their PIN number is not going to do that much for you unless you have their credit card, but there's devices that can also get that information for you. One way to stay safe is whenever you're out, it's always better to use credit than it is to use a debit card. Everywhere you go, if you have the option to use credit, just do that, and you'll have, it's just I guess a better layer of protection in general. And I'm talking about from other types of threats as well, but I mean, nothing's completely safe. The other thing that's of concern is like keypads on doors for locks and that sort of thing. Those could be easily, hacked with thermal, cameras and stuff. But these things are out there. This video right now is getting a lot of hits just because that device is for the iPhone. And if the bad man wants to get your PIN number, he's already got this technology. He's already got it in his pocket. So I don't know if there's that much more really to worry about. Maybe this could spawn some new criminals, but I don't know if people are just bad. I think the bad people already have what they want. That's my opinion, though. All right. Let's see what else we got to talk about. Did I miss anything here? Let's go ahead and talk about Tesla, shall we? So Tesla has won the right to sell directly to consumers in Massachusetts. The court has ruled that they're allowed to. That's basically it. So now they're blocked in they're blocked in Texas, Maryland of all places. They're blocked in Arizona, and I believe also Georgia. Well, in Georgia, it's like they're attempting to block them. So yeah, but and New Jersey, yeah, of course, New Jersey. So I think it's kind of interesting. Seems like a lot of the senators in Massachusetts are pretty groovy, and stuff like this happens, and they I don't know, they seem to know what's up in Massachusetts. I also want to note that it's like the smartest state. So I mean, just in general, when you look at the numbers, it's like New Hampshire and Massachusetts have like the highest IQs. So yeah, I don't know how that ties together, but I want it to. I really want it to. I want the cause and effect to be together there. Anyway,
I don't think that's how that works. Correlation's not causation, damn it.
If I say so. All right, let's take a look at the FCC and all the stuff that's going on with ISPs and all that business right now. So the FCC is thinking about putting mobile data under the same net neutrality rules as broadband, and everyone is screaming and yelling, and heads are rolling in the streets and everything. I don't even know if I want to talk about this. This stuff is just so ridiculous.
Basically, the situation here is that the FCC is saying that, well, hey, mobile internet probably should follow the same net neutrality rules as wired broadband. And what really got this conversation started was that you have these broadband companies like Comcast and Time Warner that are cable providers saying, oh, no, 4G totally competes with us. It competes with us. We promise. It really does. And which is, of course, farcical. You and your 5 gigabyte cap could compete with, cable internet where you're streaming Netflix. I mean, one 4K movie on Netflix and your cap's gone for the month. I mean, come on, really. So the FCC's like, all right, well, maybe this net neutrality stuff should apply to mobile broadband. I mean, maybe mobile broadband really is a thing. Maybe we'll invent some sort of radio technology that doesn't, suck terribly and depend on 90% of the population in radio range not doing anything on the spectrum. And so they're looking at this, and then mobile phone companies are like, wait, what? You're doing what? What? No. We need to sell our 5 gigabyte plans because 5 gigabytes is plenty of data for a month. And it's like, no, this is bad. This is very bad.
Yeah, I think AT&T's also been complaining a little bit. We didn't bring this article up. I don't think it's in here, but AT&T's also been complaining a lot right now because the FCC wants to change the classification of what the definition of broadband is all the way up to 10 megabytes or megabits, because right now it's at 4 megabits. And AT&T's freaking out, being like, no, 4 megabits is blazing fast. It's completely fast internet. It's high speed all the way. So there's also that, and they're yelling and screaming and kicking and rolling around on the floor. Meanwhile, countries like Estonia are doing quite well with way faster internet than we have here in the USA. I'm moving to Estonia. That's the train right now coming to pick me up to take me to Estonia. They're right across the water.
It's not 10 meg in Estonia. It's not even 100 meg. It's 1,000 meg and beyond in Estonia. It's like, you know how much a gigabit fiber transceiver costs now? The bill of materials, like the little components that you do that. It's like $3. $3 for the optical transceiver. You can get a complete assembly for like $20 now. There's no excuse for us not to have gigabit everywhere.
Yeah, but the problem is if we spend $3 on those materials, then that's $3 we can't spend on buying up our competition.
Or lobbying Congress.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what business are we in again? Are we lobbying Congress, or are we selling internet? Which thing are we doing again?
It's every time they make any upgrades on the network, they have buyer's remorse. And they're like, oh, I should have bought more Congress members. Should have bought more Congress members. And that train is loud. Loud train, everybody. It's time to take a drink and remind you to check out our sponsor, the store, the Epic Pants Store. That's our sponsor for the week. You can get this lovely mug. We have new snifters that are tulip shaped. We have some new things coming in. We've got hoodies coming in really soon, and those things are so freaking soft. Spared no expense. Got the best hoodies I could get for, well, best things I could get for, like, you know, a reasonable amount of money. I think that train's manageable right now. It's a low rumble. All right, now back to the regularly scheduled tech here. I forgot where we were. Oh yeah, the ISPs suck. Yes.
This is what a monopoly looks like.
Oh yeah, I think I forgot to open that article. No, there it is. There it is. Yes. Yeah. It's just funny. It's just one of the members from Vox Media. He went to return his modem and took a picture of what a monopoly looks like, and he wrote an article about it, because that's what happens when a member of the media gets upset. They write editorials about it. So yeah, but that really is what a monopoly looks like. Yeah, I think it's really funny here, and I'm not sure how it is in other countries, but does your ISP have a lobby with bulletproof glass? All of the tellers here. Oh, I'm sorry, I put in the wrong thing. All the tellers here have bulletproof glass because apparently that's needed. Yeah.
If they spent all that money on bulletproof glass on upgrading their network, perhaps people wouldn't be so angry with them.
Oh, you know what else is going to make people angry? For the longest time, people have been wanting to bundle, make their own bundles out of TV channels. Because right now, let's face it, you get, the snorkeling channel. And not everybody's into snorkeling. Some people hate snorkeling. I'm okay with snorkeling. But I don't know if I'd want a snorkeling channel. But you have to have it. It is mandated by Comcast that you must have the snorkeling channel. So people for a long time have been saying, well, no, I really just want ESPN, the Discovery Channel, otherwise known as the Bearded Reality Show Channel, and maybe ESPN 3, because I like to watch a lot of esoteric sports activities. But that's all I want. But you can't have
ESPN 8, the Ocho.
Is the Ocho? Was that that the Spanish version? Ocho, no, ESPN Ocho.
That's the dodgeball channel.
The Dodge.
I don't see why they don't do ESPN 8. They could put StarCraft and things like that on there.
No, the guy from ESPN, the owner of ESPN or whatever, said that he doesn't consider esports sports. He's one of these old, like, that ain't sports, they ain't sweating. I think they're sweating, man. I dare you to go and shake one of their hands after they win a tournament. Get a handful of freaking gamer sweat.
Those kids that play StarCraft 2 and they get like 800 actions per minute, they're definitely sweating. They're sweating profusely. They may, in fact, be having a mild heart attack. I'm not sure.
Just a sustained heart attack?
Well, and for some reason, this reminds me of the whole Apple iPad thing. That we talked about it last week, so we're not going to mention it. But, the NFL has Microsoft Surfaces, and the announcers call them iPads, which is really funny. And, I tried to watch, not to go off on a tangent here, but I tried to watch the Super Bowl once, and it had John Madden as an announcer. And the point at which I decided that this was just silly and I should stop trying to do things like that. Because, I mean, me interested in the Super Bowl, I mean, that is as strange as you're imagining. And I'll go you one better as to why it's just, this has no interest. So I heard John Madden, like, there was a fumble in the end zone. And John Madden was like, well, I don't know who his co-announcer was. I don't remember. It's like Pat, I think. And so he turned and he's like, Pat, that fumble, that was really close, you know, it was near the end zone. He's like, how many square inches do you think that was away from the end? And Pat sat there for about 5 seconds, and he said, I think that's cubic inches, John. And I just turned it off and walked away.
I've never actually watched a whole football game. I feel a better man for it. I'd watch rugby though. Anyway, but how the hell do we get from the senators abandoning the idea to bundle or unbundle broadcast TV channels to this? I don't know. So anyway, some of the senators who were trying to force the cable industry to allow people to create their own bundles have sort of given in to the industry and decided that, all right, we'll leave it alone right now. The industry can have their freaking bundles and their monopolies and all that sort of thing. So that's all we really had to report there. All right. This is really, really ridiculous. So there's a Republican group out there called the it's called the American Commitment. They were able to get 772,000 people to sign a petition that basically says that the government should avoid regulating the internet. And, from a libertarian standpoint, I think most people would say, yes, a lack of regulation would be a good thing for free markets. It would allow them to, people to pick whatever they want. The problem is a lot of libertarians, they look at everything and maybe they've just got like the rose-colored glasses on or whatever, but that's not how things work. Because the companies like Comcast, they use the government as a business tool by paying off all of the senators and Congress people. So that's what happens. And then, since there's no regulation to stop that kind of crap, well, that's what you get. So yeah, I think it's pretty interesting that they're able to trick all these people into signing. I can't imagine that there's 772,000 people that actually would have signed something like this. I mean, I can imagine there are people that are like, yeah, we don't want regulation. We want the internet to be, free of regulation so it can do the internet thing. And yeah, we agree that if regulation happens, that it won't be the internet anymore. It'll be regulated and crappy. So maybe that's how they convince them. But the FCC and Tom Wheeler is going to get a big fat stack of signatures, and that's a problem. I don't know.
Well, I'm surprised that the number was as paltry as it was, because that's just not even a reasonable, if basically, I really wish that they hadn't reclassified because they were Title II originally and they reclassified them as Title I. I really wish they hadn't done that, because under Title I is effectively no regulation, and no regulation is bad because Comcast has sued the FCC and said, you can't tell us what to do, we're going to do whatever we want. And they literally will do whatever they want. And if they have a monopoly, no one will stop them. No one's smart enough to really look at how wrong the things are that they're doing. But, history repeats itself. When AT&T was saying you have to rent phones from us, Comcast is doing the exact same thing, and no one is stopping them and saying, hey, there are certain parallels here. Maybe we should actually, not allow this because it's not good for the American citizen.
I think Comcast watched all of the the telecom companies that were split up and all that sort of thing when AT&T was split up, and then the things that happened with Bell and all that. I think they watched it and they were like, what did they do wrong when they were trying to make their evil monopoly? What went wrong there? Which pockets did they not grease enough? So I think they've learned from the mistakes of the other companies and have now done things in a different way, because it's gotten to a point where I can't believe that some entity that looks out for the customer has not stepped in and said, what the fuck, stop it. Anyway, yeah. All right, what else do we have to talk about this week? Got another interesting article here. It's called Stop Calling Tor, the Web Browser for Criminals. And this is an interesting. Well, first off, I'm going to say I totally do not advocate the use of Tor. It's an unsecure platform, and I'm going to say it every freaking time we bring up Tor, guys. Don't use Tor. Find something else. Use a VPN. I'd rather use a VPN than Tor in the first place. But if you're doing something heinous, you should get caught, and you probably will get caught. So yeah, but don't use Tor anyway. So apparently, this all started this week when Comcast. I guess they threatened to terminate someone's service because they were using the Tor network, and then they said that, hey, if you're using the Tor network, you're probably doing something illegal. So he's almost like, okay, yeah, if you're looking for privacy, then you must be sneaky, was kind of the vibe there. Comcast has come back and said, like, hey, listen, we're not, they're not standing behind that, behind what they said originally, because let's face it, if they actually came out and said that they were going to block Tor, there would be some serious, some really serious net neutrality issues, and also there'd be some serious issues that says that Comcast really, really, really doesn't care about your privacy, and that would be very bad for their bottom line because it would make the customers really weird about using Comcast as if they have a choice. But in the article here, they basically show how way back when the internet first came out, a lot of the people were like, oh, the internet, it's a scary thing where criminals and people go online to share naked pictures and sell drugs and do all these terrible things. And such is with anything that's misunderstood. And Tor can be used for a lot of good things, and it's just no one talks about them because, let's face it, if you read an article, there's never going to be an article in the paper that says, like, little boy goes home and has a cake. That will never be in the newspaper, but there may be an article in the newspaper that says little boy goes home and chokes to death on fork while trying to eat cake. That'll be in the newspaper for sure. So that's the kind of articles that we're getting with Tor. We're not getting, hey, someone got on Tor and was able to have a private conversation with their friend. That's not on Tor. I mean, that's not on the news, I don't know.
It's funny because it's true. Last week we talked about how there are certain unscrupulous elements of society that are buying and deploying cell phones that are really just, or cell phone towers that are really just repeaters. And when your phone goes through one of these repeaters, it's probably not secure. So there's this really cool Android app that's supported by the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF, that is called, it's the IMSI catcher detector. So an IMSI catcher is like an industry term for one of those devices that impersonates a cell phone in order for your phone to pair to it instead of the real tower. So this is an app for Android that looks for those and lets you know when your phone is connecting to one of those, which is like the towers that we reported last week, where it's like, well, these are third-party cell towers. We don't know what they are.
Now, for people who are intimidated by GitHub, I clicked on this here. What do they need to get from GitHub? Is there an APK file or something they can just download and install on their phone, or do they have to do some compiling or whatever? I mean, nope, you click on this and you just click on the app, right?
Yep, you can download the APK and install it. Now, you may have to say that it's okay to install APKs from local media, but you can do that on Android. You can't do that on iOS because Apple's like, no, it must go through the App Store.
Where's the damn APK at? I clicked on the thing at the top. Where's the APK? It's in the app folder, right?
Yeah, it was right there. It's right on the right-hand side, download zip file.
Oh. I clicked on View Project on GitHub because I clicked that because it's got it's got the damn.
If you'd like to compile it yourself, you can. I mean, that's fine.
All right, so yeah, go do that. I'm gonna put that on my phone right now. As a matter of fact, I think I'm gonna do that before I want to do it immediately. I'm not sure how often I'll be bumping into one of those. Another interesting thing about all these IMSI devices that are out there, the IMSI catchers that are out there, a lot of people don't know where they're coming from. In the article, they were driving around Washington, D.C., and they kept finding different ones in different spots, and they don't know who owns them or who's in control of them. Some of them may be the government, but there's also a possibility that some of those could be installations. Other governments could have installations there, and who knows what they're actually doing. So, yeah, I'm going to install this thing, and I think it's also time for me to go to the Maker Faire in New York. So, that should be fun. Yeah.
Bring me a new awesome 3D printer that is capable of doing amazing things.
I'll just throw it under my jacket and run. Yeah. Nobody will catch me. Maybe.
Self-assembling 3D printer.
It's the size of a credit card, and then it builds itself. Just add the polymer stuff. All right, that's enough of this. We will see you guys in the next episode, or I'm not sure if maybe there'll be some Maker Faire stuff. Maybe hanging out with Barnacules as well. I don't know. I think I'm going to challenge him to some games at Barcade. And then Tyler from Mayflower Electronics is going along with us. So it's going to be a crazy weekend. All right, we'll see you guys in the next videos.